In the astrology of December 26, we start our energy today off with the full moon in Cancer, which is an incredibly powerful lunar energy, of course, because it is home in Cancer. And with this full moon, of course, as always, comes in a release, and in this case, a very emotional release. So this is the feelings and possibly the entire mindsets we have connected towards certain ideals, certain things that we do, certain patterns of behavior, the way that we behave in relationships. So there's a lot that tends to happen on Cancer full moons internally, and the way, of course, that we express externally because of that. So, but also keep in mind, this Cancer full moon is in a triseptile with Pluto. So we know that the release that we have today is going to be very transformative in our soul evolution. This is going to be a emotional release that leads to an internal change if we allow it to do so. So the best thing to focus on today is not to tune out of these changes and these feelings that we're having. It's very good to look them, directly in the eye and to be very crystal clear about kind of what we're gleaning from this, what information we think we're getting from this emotional release that we're having, or a surprise of how attached we really were to a certain concept. At the same time today, this is going to be very overlooked, but we actually have kind of an important transit as well, a little bit more subtle, but basically pay close attention to the world events that have happened in the last few days and in the next few days. The reason for that is because Saturn is in a septile with Eris, so we get a little bit of preview of what's going to be going on in late June of 2027 as Saturn finally reaches its conjunction with Eris. It's years away from now. It doesn't seem like it's going to be that big of a deal, but there are going to be some very strange events that have callbacks to right now, to the world events that happen in these, basically this range of about 7 days or so. So pay close attention to that. In another sense, you could say that because of how slow moving Saturn and Eris both are, that technically we could be looking at the events of the last 6 months and the next 6 months. We could leave it really wide open, but especially in basically the range of about 3 to 7 days backwards and forwards. So anyways, back to the Cancer full moon and its triseptile with Pluto. Serious emotional releases, and here's what each of the signs are going to be kind of focused on for these releases. For Cancer, of course, you are going to be in the release of the self. Basically the release of holding yourself back in some way, holding back your Aries energy, holding back the way that you want to show up or express yourself or appear to others, and possibly the attachments to the ways that maybe you were trying to shrink backwards. So it's very important to let yourself be yourself today. That's just incredibly important in this energy. For Gemini, this is of course going to be the release around finances, specifically emotional fear patterns that we have around finances, emotional fear patterns about what if other people are using me for my finances, what if I never get to a financial place that I want to, what if I never have the things that I want, what if I never feel safe or secure. So these are very intense emotional fears to have. And the thing about Cancer and the lunar energy is that they're very prone to some of these energies, especially manifesting as fear rather than necessarily rage or some of the other, we might think of like dark tonal emotions. So as for Taurus, this is going to be a very serious release about your throat chakra, which is very important because Taurus rules the throat. So basically anything that you've needed to say, anything you've wanted to get off your chest, or today on this full moon, it might just be admitting to yourself that you have something that you want to say. You might not actually do that today. Today, you might just admit that there is something to say. And so, of course, for Aries, this is going to be a release that you have around whether it be trauma with your family or grudges against certain family members. There is something very important to release that has essentially been a long thread through kind of your family dialogue, your family culture, if you will. So very important to look at that. For Pisces, this is the release around suppressing your own heart space, suppressing your creativity, your joy, your excitement, basically anything that has kept you from allowing the glowing light within your heart space in a very Leonic way, keeping that from coming to the surface because it would show a certain level of confidence and a fear around letting yourself be confident in certain situations. And then of course we've got Aquarius, and so this is about releasing kind of what you think you're supposed to do each and every day, the way that you're supposed to be living your life, the things that are prescribed to you. It's very important to kind of get in touch with what you want your day to look like. How do you want your life to go? What is your dream of your lifestyle? And then of course we've got Capricorn, and so for Capricorn this is basically letting go of relationships that are not working, letting go of the way that you feel relationships are supposed to go if you're attached to it, and you're realizing that this attachment to this concept is not matching reality, it is not working, it's not making you feel good. It feels as though it's butting up against what other people actually want, need, and the way that they work with you, in the way that they want to work with you. So maybe you have some very specific expectation of people in relationships, and you're realizing this expectation just is not compatible with life and what's been happening in your previous relationships, rather than simply saying, oh, this is just their fault. This is just what this person couldn't do. None of them have been able to do it, but this perfect person, eventually they'll have exactly what, and there might be some energy of compromise to find in here. And then of course we have Sagittarius, and so for this energy, this is the release of things that you have not wanted to admit or not wanted to basically make peace with internally. This is the release of fear that has been attached to your intuition, fear that has been attached to what it is that you're prophesying or picking up. So really intense there. For Scorpio, of course, this is going to be the release of the ways in which you refuse to believe in yourself or believe in something, keeping yourself in almost like a false agnosticism about your own potential, where you're like, yeah, maybe something good will happen to me, maybe I'll have like a good opportunity, but I don't know if I've got what it, like all of these ways in which you potentially question yourself. Today's an important day to release some of that and let yourself actually say, hey, I'm going to take this adventure, I'm going to go for it. Maybe I'll fail, maybe that's even okay, maybe I'll have to try again, maybe I'll never get to try again, but I'm going to try. I'm going to actually just go out on a limb and believe in myself for 5 minutes. For Libra, of course, this is about believing that you can do something greater, and to not feel as though you're always going to be almost quarantined into a small little box, allowing yourself to say, hey, I can go for this very lofty deed, this really intense goal or achievement you want to set for yourself, and recognize that you have what it takes. And not only is it possible, it's your original destiny, it's your original composition, the thing you are here to do. And then of course for Virgo, this is going to be the release around the acquaintances, the friendships, the things that are not working, the friendship culture or social network culture that you have with other people that is in no way, shape, or form taking you into account, releasing grudges and anger around that, and doing so that you can actually instead communicate what it is that you do want, or find the people that are actually compatible with what it is that you desire from life. And then of course we have Leo, and so Leo, this is happening in your 12th. So today is going to be a release of some very intense dark stuff that has happened in the last 3 years, this last year especially, but in the last 3 years, releasing some of these very dark toned events that have painted you with a certain level of criticism of other people, painted you with a feeling of suspicion, refusal to trust, keeping people at arm's length, and essentially letting some of these things go. Maybe not all of them, you can't just necessarily do 20 years of therapy all in a single moment, but sometimes you can surprise yourself and maybe get a full year of therapy in a single moment. Sometimes you can let go of something that creates a chain reaction of questioning and letting go of other difficulties that you've experienced. So anyways, I hope this has been helpful, you guys. Happy Cancer full moon. I think this is going to be probably the best one in the last few years, and I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day. I will talk to you all tomorrow.